Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage organized a day-long workshop on the scientific preservation of indigenous language. Director of Arts and Culture, Government of Meghalaya, Frederick Roy Kharkongor, graced the occasion as a chief guest. Kharkongor, in his address note, stressed over the need to preserve, protect and promote the indigenous language. The chief guest also informed that the government is always on the path of promoting such events. During the interaction session, Associate Professor Mandalin Y. Tham, the convener INTACH Meghalaya chapter, speaking on the occasion how to preserve the indigenous language, she showed her desire to advise the parents of this generation to make their children to study their own language. Moreover, she said that the present generation studies alternate English rather than Khasi. Professor Desmond Kharmauplang, Cultural and Creative Studies, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, expressed it's the time for us to use documentation and graphic to make the present students to have their interest in their own language.
The scientific preservation of indigenous language. We belong to a microscopic, community, short of 10 lakhs, in the huge ocean that is India. And if you look at the northeast itself, the map of the northeast itself looks like a speech bubble, and it has hundreds of languages in states like Nagaland as well as Arunachal Pradesh. Every 10 kilometers, I think you have a different dialect, you have a different language. Even here in Meghalaya, you go to the Jaintia Hills, there are different dialects. You go to Riboi, where Desmond has done extensive work. There are so many different dialects and so many different intonations. So there are definitely challenges. There are three main things, I think three main objectives, which is to preserve, promote and to protect. Or preserve, protect and promote. They all interlinked together. They cannot be viewed in silos. Because to preserve, you need to protect, and when you are in the process of preserving and protecting, you're also in a sense promoting it also. So we face this enormous challenge of being first of all our size, then secondly we live in this digital age. In fact, with my very own children, sometimes when they send me messages, I don't understand what they send. It's all full of abbreviations and commas and small little abbreviations. I have to get it deciphered. When you were younger, when we read comics, all those things that tie together looked like an abuse, in fact. And full of slashes and echelons, and So nowadays, our children they use emojis. So I forget about mainstream language. Our children are not reading enough. I mean, they don't read. I buy them novels, but they keep it aside. They're much more comfortable in scrolling the screen to get short updates and short. It's a world where there's very less attention span, and the challenge, I think, how to preserve, protect, and promote our language is how to master this digital age, how to make our languages more mainstream. I think some of the efforts in popular media like Shillong Chamber Choir, what they're doing, bringing Khasi opera, Solingam, talking about music, Khasi music. So that makes it more engaging for young people at one level. And at another level, you have movies. Now you have quite a few Khasi movies coming out. You have Yodo, which is being screened all over India in all the big multiplex theatres. And then you also have, a few years ago, I remember there was a very nice animation on Tirot Singh. And there's another young boy who's done, who's brought out, like and what you call an app, it's called Tang Shikintin, I think, Khasi app. So that way, young people, they feel more engaged because you're using their medium. When we did our election campaigns, we found that the mainstream media is something which does not get that much wide appeal, but it's through the social media. So we are using Facebook, we are using Instagram, we are using WhatsApp for our election campaigning. I mean, in terms of voter education. So we find that whenever there is that cycle of viewership and likes, then it sort of disseminates. It makes young people more interested. Talking about Khasi, it's been I think an enduring struggle to get the language part of the 8th schedule, as one of the recognized languages. And we need to produce more literature, more movies. We need to produce much more, mainstream work that is out there, so that our children also, they get engaged and they get triggered to know and to appreciate, the richness of our language and of our culture. The song which was sung by those two lovely ladies was, is a timeless classic, which even our former chief ministers, used to sing at lots of public forums. So I think the challenge is how to preserve, how to protect, and how to promote. These three things are, highly essential. In the Department of Art and Culture, which I've just joined, we will look forward to collaborative work with the INTACH and also with the Department of Cultural Studies to think together to maybe to form a task force. I mean, we can have a task force, and then we can identify various areas, various avenues on how to go ahead, and also create syllables and vocabulary that will engage the young people as well. Because we are living in Shillong, but many a time I'm conversing with my own children in English. It's only when we are outside Shillong or outside India that we tend to converse with each other in our own language, because we don't want other people to know what we're talking about. I mean, that's on a lighter note. But but while we are within our own familiar environment, we tend to think in English, speak in English. So that is the norm that is there. So I think what you're doing today, I mean, all the deliberations that you that you're going to have today will contribute substantially. I hope that you will also come out with a small little booklet or something, or in the deliberations that you're going to take, and maybe post it on a website. Hope you do have a website or a blog, so that it will only be limited to this audience here, but anyone can click and access what you're deliberating, and you can then disseminate far wider, because that is like it or not, that is the medium that we have right now, and that is the way that we need to go. I applaud Andrew Mead's grandfather, Thomas Jones, who brought the language to us here many centuries ago. It's who sort of gave us the alphabets, and I think what he's done and what you are continuing to do in your field of work right now in the University of Melbourne, I think will be something that contributes to this entire process. The Department of Cultural Studies, INTACH, I'm so happy that Madeline has taken over, and I think there will be, we are in the East, so I think the sun will start rising now in the East with the language and with the culture, hopefully. And I would also like to encourage more and more people to come together in a forum, in a digital forum, and engage, collaborate, ideate. And probably what we need to have is some kind of an incubation kind of a setup, where you have open houses and you get to talk and you get to deliberate about the bodies of work. And I think we have to go more mainstream, get into the popular medium, talk about the films, talk about literature, the research, the what is there on the on the digital space, promote these things on the digital space, have Instagram accounts, have Facebook accounts, use the use the vocabulary and the medium that is there, because that is what the young people gravitate to. So I think once we are able to build a body of work which is, and it'll be there, which can be accessible anywhere. I was just sharing with Andrew that in Australia there's a young musician called Tiana Khasi. She is a mixed Polynesian and Khasi heritage, and she sings often about Shillong, and she's got thousands of followers on Instagram and on Facebook and all that, and she sings, and she even uses Khasi words in between. So in a sense, when she sings to a packed audience in Melbourne or in Adelaide, they're always intrigued by her surname, and then it leads to young people, going to Google and finding out what's Khasi and what is, where are these people from, what are they doing? I mean, there's interest. So these are some of the thoughts which I've come to share on a purely layman perspective. I'm sorry I've not stuck to your scientific preservation, but the parting thought that I have is preservation, protection and promotion need not operate in silos. They are in fact interlinked together, and we need to think of ways and means on how to use all the available medium and also all the mainstream. I mean, the mainstreaming of our efforts. We need to mainstream now. The main challenge is how to mainstream our efforts so that we are able to amplify and get the message resonated that our language is strong and vibrant, and and it's thriving, and it's something which is that the world will be enriched if they get a glimpse into our world, and vice versa. And we will also be enriched by the cross-cultural connections. So thank you very much.